Welcome, Brian. How are you, buddy?
Feel great. Tristan, yourself?
Good, man. So what's this thing behind you? Think big.
Well, all right. So it's interesting. All it is it's just I have a green screen behind me. So
Oh,
yeah, I'll show you. It's kind of funny. People ask me all the time, like, that's a really cool office space you have. Yeah, it is.
oh, it's green. I
So
like it. I like it.
I
Well,
literally
okay.
put a bar across the room, like a curtain bar, and then just hung a green screen on it. So my entire behind me is green, so that way I can do stuff like that. So
I
I
like
found
it.
that I'm like, think big. I mean, I couldn't go wrong with that. Dale pointed out to me that that light bulb looks like his logo, and I told him, sorry, I didn't mean to steal it. So
All right. Well, it looks awesome, man. Let's talk
yes.
about building a team and integrating Ylopo with Follow-Up Boss. We'll start simple, nothing super deep, because we've only got about 30 minutes. But in those 30 minutes, if we're looking at building a team around lead generation, where do we typically start?
I think it comes from your value proposition. So, and I wish this wasn't true, but it probably is. I would say 90% of people join a team most specifically for leads, right? At the end of
Yep.
the day, for whatever reason, they're not getting enough people who are interested. Now, a lot of them find out that it wasn't necessarily the leads were the problem. It's just they didn't know how to work them. But I think it's really valuable to be able to give people leads. And here's the beauty of Ylopo, not to get too deep into it, but you can get the whole range of them. So, they've got Ylopo Live where they're literally making phone calls. They've got Raya, which is your AI connections. You can get Facebook leads, you can get pay-per-click leads. There's so many opportunities to decide where you're at in that process. And you can decide, are you going to build a team that's going to do a lot of long-term nurtures, or are you going to build a team that's more focused on short-term? And I think Ylopo gives you the flexibility to do both of those and with their different product offerings. And I think that's really powerful.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I agree with you, dude. Most people join teams to get more business, right?
yeah,
That's really
that's a
what
better
we
way to
join,
put it, I think.
right?
Yeah.
Whether it's through lead generation, like we're giving them leads through opportunities or through coaching, through guidance. Yeah, I like that. That's so true. I built my team initially because we had just too many online leads coming through 2008 to 2009,
Yep.
and there was no way I could do it, and I didn't want to because it was like drowning. So yeah, I could see that. So if we're looking at lead management, when the leads are coming through Google PPC, Facebook lead ads, realtor.com, Zillow, wherever they're coming from, how are you being able to manage that better for the agents on the team?
So there's different models. Let me share our model because I like it. I think it's a good model. Otherwise, I would change it. So we do a thing called lead day. And here's one of the biggest gripes I've heard from agents. And Tristan, you've been around the industry for a while. I'm sure you've heard this too. I don't have a life. I joined a team. It got worse. They wanted me to work basically 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, be available every time a lead came in. And honestly, I'm just burnt out. So we heard that, and we wanted to find a way to say, hey, how do I become successful without being on call 24/7, 365, right? So what is lead day? So lead day is the opportunity that you have to get leads. And that's literally what it is. So we'll have anywhere between 2 and 3 people, depending on different things, be on lead day. So Ylopo lead comes in. What do we do with it? We're going to call that lead. We're going to text it. We're going to email it. So why is this good for the team leader? Well, it's good for the team leader because in theory, the 3 people on lead day, that's their entire job that day. They're not out showing property. They're not going on listing appointments. They're not doing whatever. They can do paperwork, but ultimately they are sitting perched in front of their phone for that day. And here's what's great about it. Speed to lead is awesome because that's the only thing they're supposed to be doing is being available for their phone to ring. And why do we have 3 people? Well, because even in the model where I say, Tristan, I need you available from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, you're like, sure, Brian, I can do that. Then your kid has a thing and your wife called and your dog's barking. And so we understand that there's some flexibility, but here's the real upside to it for the agent. Our agents get 4 to 5 lead days a month, which means the other, let's say there's 30 days in a month, the other 25 to 26 days a month, they don't need to worry about their phone ringing with a new lead because it's not going to ring with a new lead. So we really focus on being focused for that short period of time because we know speed to lead is so important right now. Even,
Yeah.
and so the combination of it gives agents the opportunity to build their own life, their own schedule, because they're not required to be available 24 hours a day, and also it increases the speed of lead. So that is the model that we use for teams. Now, I will say this: you can't do that with a 3-person team.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So well, let me reverse back. How many agents are you using in a day? So would that be like 8 to 12, 12 to 5? What does that look like?
8 to 8, 3 o'clock
8
in the morning, 8 to 8, 3 agents. And here's the thing: we've thought about doing shifts like, okay, you take 8 to 12, I'll take 12 to 4, and someone else takes 4 to 8.
Uh-huh.
It just makes it a scheduling nightmare. And it also does not do the thing that I talked about where an agent can now go and take a day off in the middle of the week and not worry about that. Because if you had 3 shifts a day, think of the number of agents that you would need to make that so you actually had some days off. So if you got a 10-person team and you're doing 3 shifts a day, you're on every day anyway.
All
So if
right.
you just sit down and do the math on that.
So you got 3 agents, 8 to 8. This way, at least you know for sure they're going to be reached quickly. What does the process look like for you? As soon as a lead hits your system, what's expected?
It depends on the lead source. You mentioned realtor.com. So realtor.com has direct connect phone calls. Everyone's excited about those. Anytime, someone's on the other line saying, "Hey, I've got somebody on the other line for you," they're excited about that. So we have
Mhm.
multiple opportunities that we've got there. We've got Ylopo leads. So we use Ylopo Live. So Ylopo Live will go, "Hey, Tristan, I got somebody on the line for you." Great. So they're available. And that's the other problem. If again, Ylopo Live is a perfect example. I don't want to have call that person back. The biggest problem in real estate in 2024, in my opinion, is going to be getting people on the phone. Our answer rates are in the single digits. If I've got somebody on the phone, I sure as heck better have a conversation with them, not tell them I'm going to call them back. So that person's sitting there. So those are direct connects. And then we also use Callingly. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that program or not, but it's a great program. And so here's the other thing I found out. These things are fabulous, right? We all use a cell phone. I have an iPhone, like the majority of real estate agents. Some have Androids, but this thing does too much. And what I mean by that, it gives me Facebook notifications, Instagram notifications, X
Mhm.
notifications. So what do I get? I get notification fatigue. And so I can be on Facebook on my phone and a text message comes in, I might miss it. A notification from my email comes in, I might miss it. You know what? The one thing I never miss is a phone call. Do you know why? Because it takes over my phone. I literally don't have any choice. If I'm on Facebook and my phone rings, Facebook goes away. If I'm on Instagram and my phone rings, Instagram goes away. So we use Callingly. So Callingly calls in to our agent. They press 1, and then it'll dial out to the client if it's not an incoming phone call. So in other words, an email type of lead. So, your traditional
Got it.
Ylopo leads, your traditional PPC leads, some of the realtor.com leads, different things like that. Because we want every single person to be contacted as quickly as possible. And we noticed that people would saying things like, "I didn't see the lead. I didn't see the lead." So Callingly takes over your phone. So I don't want to hear "I didn't see the lead" anymore. I know you saw the lead.
Got it. So the lead comes through, then Callingly knows, then it automatically dials. Does it dial the 3 agents at the same time? Okay, so it dials the 3 agents. One of them picks up. Now then it connects that agent to the client. Hopefully they pick up. If not, they leave a message. Then they
Yep.
text. Then they email. Right. What
Yeah. We're
happens?
also double dialing all of our people now.
Call, text, email, then a nudge text. That's
Yep.
that's what we do. So when you have a Zillow lead come through or a direct connect like a Ylopo, what number are they dialing? So it dials everyone on call.
We have a very specific number. And as a matter of fact, since this is a follow-up boss webinar, I think that's really applicable. We use a follow-up boss inbox number. So basically, every single one of those leads brings to that inbox, and then we have again 3 agents who have the availability to pick that up. And there's a little bit of jump ball mentality, as one of the agents on a team refers to it. But also, one of the things that we found is that if somebody gets 2 or 3 leads in a row, we actually have open conversation between the 3 agents on lead day and say, hey, Tristan, you got the last 3 leads. Can you let me have one of them? And it's a nice conversation. It's not, in the past, full disclosure, in the past, it wasn't always nice. But I feel like we've worked on the culture a lot around, hey, you can't take all the leads anyway. You've got
That's
to,
true.
so I think there's some people who got greedy, and, it's human nature and that happens, but we've worked through that, and it's become to most of the time where it's like, here became our rule. If you took the last lead, you waited for 4 rings before you took the next one. So in other
I
words,
like
you're
that.
giving your partners the opportunity to get in there too. Now, after 4 rings, if they don't pick it up, I'm going to assume that they're taking a shower or whatever other things they might be doing, or they're on the phone with another lead, or we don't want to be so nice that the lead doesn't get answered, because that's counterproductive as well. And there's art and science to it. There's a matter of, we talk about, when the lead day starts, the 3 agents should have a quick conversation in the morning. Text is fine. Hey, welcome, excited to be on lead days with you guys today. Let's have a great day. Let's, do those kind of things. So that way we can all work together. And the truth of the matter is, you've run a team for a long time. Every once in a while, you're going to end up with an individual who tries to get more than their share. But for the most part, everybody helps everybody, and it's a lot more fun.
I like that, man. Letting it ring 3 to 4 times if you just picked up the last lead, that's
Yep.
pretty that's pretty cool. And you would
Yeah.
only know because you run this system. It made sense to me as I was writing it down. I'm like, that's really good. I'm just finishing up that thought. All right, so now the lead comes through. You've got the lead engagement process down, quarterbacking it. What happens if I get somebody on the phone, we're talking, they're like, and this is what happens mostly with online leads. Um, I'm not looking right now, just maybe like 6 months, 8 months. We've got it down. We're like, we understand why. What happens to them in the system, in the database?
So we use a very simplistic method. And by the way, I could make the method more complex, and in the past it was more complex. And here's what I found out, and I think you can speak to this. Most people did not become real estate agents to learn to be tech experts. So I want to keep it simple, because my best salespeople, they're not the techiest people. They're great salespeople, and I don't need them to be the best techie people if I keep my system relatively simple. So let's just take a buyer lead. We'll just use a buyer lead. It's easier. Buyer leads are basically going to fall into one of 5 categories. Hot prospect. That's someone who I'm actively going to show property to, or actively am showing property to. So I'm going to literally go into follow-up boss. I'm going to change the stage to hot prospect. It triggers a couple of automations. For example, it turns off Ylopo. It turns off Raya. So those of you who don't know what Raya is, but Raya is the
Yep.
IA, the AI assistant through Ylopo. Because unfortunately, people sometimes get pissed off if you've had a conversation with them and then the bot comes behind and texts behind them. So we automatically turn that off. And then we've got drips that are going to follow immediately behind that. But the main thing is that we know that that person is now on a smart list to get a phone call every 2 days. That's what's really important, is that we're making sure that we're not going to drop that. And then let's say it's someone who's 0 to 90. That's what I call an A buyer. Hot prospect and A buyer, there's a slight overlap in there. But an A buyer, maybe you haven't met them yet. You're planning on meeting them next week. You feel like they're being honest with you. That's a 0 to 90. Those people in my world need a conversation every 7 days. So again, the smart list pops up and says, Tristan Ahumada, we talked to him on January 1st. It's now January 8th. You need to call him, text him, you need to communicate with him. Okay, great. And then our Bs are they're 181 to 360, and then Ds are 360 plus. And we go through and we want to disposition them. And basically every day when people come in, the very first thing I want them to do is take a look at every single one of their smart lists, hot prospect A, B, C, D, and then just call, text, email, communicate with those people so we don't forget. Because we know this, it's the right person at the right time with the right conversation. Well, I've trained them all to have the right conversation.
Hmm.
I don't know what the right time is, so I got to stay in front of them all the time. Even if they say they're 6 months out, I contact those people every 21 days. I mean, they're not long term. I mean, I'm still contacting them quite often because at the end of the day, and you've been doing this a long time, sometimes that 6 month person turns into 6 weeks. So if you're not the person who's right there in front of them when they do that, and by the way, this is a general thing for all of our audience who might be watching today. There's a whole bunch of people whose timeline is about to move up. If you've got someone who told you they're going to buy in June, you better call them today because they're watching the news. Other agents are talking to them. Interest rates are dropping. The real estate market's going to go crazy again. My point is, I think all too often people go, oh, you're going to buy in June? Great, I'll call you in May. That's not a good idea because they've worked with 3 other realtors by the time May comes, in my experience.
I like that. So when it comes to this whole process, the lead engagement, agents going back and forth, collaborating together, I love the collaboration. And
Mhm.
then the nurturing, understanding what's happening next with them. How do you how do you make sure that the team has buy-in on this? Everyone on the team is doing the lead day or only
Yep.
certain agents?
No, if you're on my team, you get lead day. As a matter of fact, that's the only way you're going to get leads. So,
That's so
so I,
you're like, oh, by the way,
Mhm.
listen, this is it.
Well, yeah, it's
That's
how it
so
works. I
funny.
mean, well, Tristan, let's talk about that. So often, team leaders try and create a program for 17 different avatars of an agent, and then the system doesn't work for anybody. Everybody who's on my team is on my team because they like our system. If they hated our
Yeah.
system, they would go join a different team or go out on their own or quit or do whatever else. So I understand. I mean, I'm very clear when I bring people in. This is how we do. This is how we do it. Here's the benefit. Here's the downside. By the way, lead day's hard. Like you're on call for 12 hours that day. You
Yeah.
know, and it's not like the phone rings every 5 minutes. I wish it did, but
Yeah.
it's you never know when a lead's going to come in.
Do you do you make sure that each agent gets at least one lead day a week, or do some get two or three? How does that work?
So lead day is based on performance, and there's a couple of performance metrics that we use. The very first one we use is closings. So if you get 2 closings in the month of January, you will get maximum number of lead days in February.
Oh, I like that, dude. I like
It's
that. I
all
like
it's
that.
all based on that. And then
You know,
there's another thing you can do, it's conversations. So we also set a conversation threshold. So even if you don't have 2 closings, as long as you had X number of conversations, you'll still qualify. Now we look at that after 2 months. If you go 2 months in a row where you're not having any closings, then we're going to have a discussion. And that's a little bit, it's not quite as scientific because now I need to figure out what's going on. Was it your fault? Were you really working? Was it, were you just dialing the phone just to try and get your numbers up? Are you having problems with conversations? It really is a quick identifier for us. The majority of time, if you're ours, by the way, we figured this out for our team. For every 22 conversations an agent has on our team, we have a closing. So our minimum, if you don't have a closing to get maximum lead days, is 75 conversations. So we want you to have conversations. It's the only way to excel in this industry. Go ahead.
all right. The online leads. So for every 22 conversations that you're having with the types of leads that are coming in for you, 22, it
22.
creates one closing or okay.
One closing. Now, those are independent conversations. So in other words, I can't have 22 conversations just with you. And it's 22 unique conversations. For every 22 unique conversations we're having, we're seeing a closing.
And give me your lead sources right now.
Ylopo Live. I do some PPC that's just not through Ylopo. I have a Sierra site that I run PPC to. Um, Obviously all the portal things like your home lights, mellow homes, those are random. We use OpCity, and then we have realtor.com market VIP. We have a couple of other random lead sources here, but also we have a pond that has 75,000 people in it. So there's not a person on our team who suffers from not being able to have somebody to talk to unless it's a choice.
I like this, man. And right now, from what you're seeing, which one is giving you the highest closing per conversation?
Real estate realtor.com gives us the highest closing per conversation, but it's not necessarily the highest ROI. That's something that people need to consider when they're building out their things. Like Zillow was one of our number one lead sources, but you notice I didn't mention them. I canceled them because although we had a bunch of closings from Zillow in 2022, what we didn't have was a bunch of profit from Zillow in 2022.
Yeah.
So, I will say this to everybody: check your lead sources, know your ROI. I was paying up to $1,400 for a for a Zillow lead at one point in time. That
Dude,
in a market,
yes.
that's bad math.
That is. And that's why we still, for years, our main lead source online, right? No, I'm not talking about referrals, past
Right.
clients.
Sphere.
No,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
by far the best. But outside of
Yeah.
that, um, is Google PPC. And right now, we run our own Google PPC, but the majority of it comes from Ylopo.
Same here.
And they still outperform us, but we test it out all the time just to make sure we're like, oh, we like to know what the hell's happening. So
Yep.
but Ylopo does such a great job, mainly because I do exactly what you said, which is I want to take a look at the return. And although one type of lead may have a higher conversion in the sense that the less people I talk to here, the more are going to convert, which is crazy. But it costs me so much on this end. So I love that you brought that up, man. Take a look at how much it cost per closing. That makes all the difference.
Right. Because I promise you, if I bought Zillow right now, if I went out and spent the $25,000 a month I was spending on Zillow, I would have more closings, but I would also start to lose money. So, in real estate agents, that's one of the things that Zillow, realtor.com, homes.com, any of these sites understand their job is to sell you their product. It is not for you to worry about you converting their product. That's not their job. Their job is to sell you their product. I respect that, by the way. I'm a salesperson. I sell stuff. So it's your job as the consumer to find out if the product is working for you. And again, working for you is not how many closings I got, it's how much money did I make. At least it is for me.
Yeah.
I mean, working for free is really overrated.
Well, dude, unless you're like a billionaire, then you're like, then I'll work for free in certain cases, depending on what it
Sure.
is. All right. Question about processes. If I'm bringing in an online lead source like Ylopo and I've got follow-up boss, how do you make them work so that they perform best for your team so that they can get the most out of it? What are the things that you're using that allow you to function better?
Sure. So we actually, all of our Ylopo leads, I think we're doing all Ylopo live now. So it's
Okay.
not the standard Ylopo leads, but they all go into a pond. And once that lead is converted, then the agent's going to have access to that pond and they can yank it, they can pull that out of that pond. Because I don't need them being distracted while Ylopo is working it. So Ylopo works the lead for us. It's got Raya going and they've got phone calls and they're doing all the things that they're doing. In essence, they're functioning as I'm going to call it an ISA on steroids. And that's a good thing. And then but I don't want my agent then messing that whole rhythm up. So we put them in pond, and after a certain activity takes place, a tag goes on them, and then they get transferred to another pond, which our agents have access to. Basically, the pond that says, "Hey, this is a new lead that's coming in." So
Oh, got it. So there's a pond one, then there's a pond two.
yep, I have access to pond one, and I'm the only person, or my team leader does also. But and then pond two, the agents once we actually want the agent to engage with that, it goes in the pond. They get a notification, and then whoever goes in and grabs it gets it.
I like that,
Or if
man.
it's
So
live, transferred, same thing.
pond one has AI and live callers working it,
Mhm.
or AI callers. Soon I know they're
Yep.
working with that really well.
Yep.
Then once they're a hand raiser or we identify them as possibly good, they go into pond two, and that's when an agent gets notified. When
Yep.
they go into pond two, is that when whoever is on lead
Lead day.
day gets
Yep.
notified?
Yeah.
Boom,
So the
second.
lead, yeah,
Got
maybe
it.
the lead came in last Tuesday and it wasn't a viable lead yet. In other words, we hadn't had a conversation with it. It's working when that's how we do it specifically with Ylopo. And then now like, oh wait, this person wants to have a conversation. We need an agent to engage. So there's no reason to confuse the agent by even letting them know the lead exists until the lead is interested in doing something, having a conversation at a minimum. So we do a similar thing with Conversion Monster. We use them for some of our PPC as well. um, I've just used them for years, so they've worked out pretty good for me. And once
Cool.
it gets transferred over to the agent, we're going to assign it to that agent. Currently, it's assigned to a Conversion Monster in our pond.
I like that, man. All right. So what areas do you cover, or what area do you cover?
Yeah, we covered Northwest Arkansas. Even though I live in Colorado, that's our team's in Northwest Arkansas, and so basically, literally the top corner. Walmart is headquartered in Northwest Arkansas. That's basically what makes the area go. Benton, Washington County, any of those things work. But yeah, mostly it's two full counties. It's probably 30 zip codes or so.
That's really cool, dude. All right. So what's next this year? What are you going to add to the sequence, or what are you looking to add?
You mentioned it, so I'll just bring it up. AI. I mean, AI is where the future's headed. It'll be really interesting to see how this AI calling is going to go. I think that's something that's going to be really interesting. And I see us continuing to move away from the portals, the big, the realtor.com, the Zillows, the home.com. Again, I still work with realtor.com. I'm everything against them, but everything is going to start moving to this. I think we're doing a lot of long-term nurtures, and pay-per-click is perfect for that. And we've really built our systems around being nurturers versus being order takers. 2021, we were all order takers. We can say we weren't, but I haven't met an agent who wasn't in 2021. Now we got to go to nurture. Everything's about nurture. And so what are you going to do to make sure that you stay in contact with people so that you're there when they go to make a move? And that's where those smart lists and FUB come up. If you just follow your smart list every single day, like we want no more than 100 leads assigned to the agent. We exclude past clients and Sphere with that, but no more than 100 online leads assigned to one given agent. Let's constantly upgrade our database. So in other words, if I've got somebody who's a D assigned to me, who's 3 6 over a year out, and I've got 100 leads come in, and I'm on lead day and I get someone who wants to buy a house right now, I got to kick somebody out of my database. I've got to constantly top grade that database
And how
all along
often
the way.
are agents on your team doing that? So that if I'm on your team, what do you expect of me? Is it weekly that I check to make sure I'm at
Weekly.
100 still?
Yeah, I mean, do people get to 103, 104? Yeah, of course they do.
Of course,
But
yeah.
I'm not going to lose my mind over it. But we also employ, I don't know if we got enough time to even talk about this. We also employ a lead manager. So we have a lead manager who literally goes behind and makes sure the agents do what they say they're supposed to do. They're going to check their smart list. Hey, Tristan, it's 3 o'clock on Monday afternoon. You've got 8 people in your smart list you haven't reached out to. Just a quick little text kind of notification, or hey, this is our rhythm following up with a brand new lead. You did great on day 1. It's day 2. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You haven't reached out to this person again, and we don't see any notes in there. So it's funny. I was a little concerned when I put that in place because I was like, they're going to think I'm micromanaging them. But we've managed to frame that in the way that it was intended. We're just helping to make sure they don't miss good opportunities.
That's it, man. That's what it
Now,
comes
I
down
will
to.
say there is a period of time if you don't follow the protocol, we're going to help somebody else have a good opportunity. In other words, we're going to transfer that lead to somebody else. but
I love that.
but yeah, the agents
Thanks,
have
man.
really embraced it because I don't know about you, but I can honestly say that I would get frustrated with myself quite often in that when I didn't follow up enough. And then you
Yeah.
do the follow up, and the person's like, "Man, I really appreciate that, Brian. But this weekend we went and looked with Tristan, and he's going to be our agent." Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, he's a good guy at least, but you should have worked with me. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's not a fun conversation to have, and it's like a gut punch. Like you nurture somebody for 3 months, and then you forget to call them, and they go to an open house and buy a house for somebody else.
That's true,
That's
buddy. That's
frustrating.
so true.
And so we want that to be minimized. We want someone to remind you, hey, Tristan, you got to call this guy because If not, someone else is going to call them.
All right, man. Thanks for doing this, buddy. I appreciate you. How do people find you if they have questions for you?
Yeah, I'm actually on Facebook quite a bit. So you can just direct message me on Facebook. That's really the easiest way to do it. Honestly, it's just that direct message on Facebook. I check my messenger a couple times a day. So that's
All
just the
right, man.
easiest way to
I'll
do it.
message you on Facebook.
There you go. Awesome. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me as always.
Dude, this was great. You gave me a really good outline.
Nice.
This was good, buddy. This was very good. I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. That was really
Cool.
good. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.